Hey, I'm Acella, and today we're going to learn how to play the board game Spielnacht. Spielnacht, or game night if you haven't brushed up on your German lately, is a game about bringing our friends together and convincing them to play some of our favorite games. When was the last time your gaming group got together and everyone got to play exactly what they wanted? Would I be right in guessing never? Spielnacht puts us right in the middle of our weekly game night, where our friends all want to play different kind of games, and we have to scour our collection to find a game that's going to attract the most people. Spielnacht is a 2 to 4 player game, and it plays in about 30 to 45 minutes. Let's head to the table now for a look at how it plays. First, let's take a look at the games that you'll be collecting in Spielnacht. Each of these cards represents a game that you might be able to acquire and add to your collection. The numbers on the back of the game cards indicate which round the game will become available. The important thing to remember is that as the rounds progress, the available games will get better and better. On the front of the game cards, you'll notice the same elements from game to game. In the middle of the card is the name of the game. The name is just there to add some flavor, but it's fun to see if you recognize the allusions to your favorite or maybe not so favorite games. The color of the background represents a category that the game falls into. Some gamers only want to play a specific type of game, like for example a cooperative game, so you'll need to make sure that you're buying the games in the right category. There are 5 categories in Spielnacht. The red cards represent card games. The green cards represent war games. The blue cards are cooperative games. The gray cards are strategy games. And the purple cards represent party games. It's not important to remember those categories for now, but they can help you remember some general properties of the games. For example, you might notice that the purple games usually need a bigger group to start playing, but they can also support a larger group, just like a party game. Probably the most important part of each game card is the game's rating in the top right corner of the card. This is a measure of how much a person wants to play your game. If someone wants to play a red game, and there are 2 red games available to play, they're going to sit down at the game with the higher rating. The final part of each game is the number of players in the bottom left corner of the game. It needs to attract at least its minimum player count. A low minimum player count will make it easier to get a game played, but since each person who plays your game gets you a victory point, it's sometimes worth the risk to collect games that need more players. Now that we've talked about games, let's take a look at the people who are going to play games. Each person is represented by one of these meeples, and there are 3 kinds of meeples. The first set are solid, single-color meeples. They're a little bit spoiled, so they're only willing to play one category of game. If they can't find a game that matches their color at game night, they're going to leave the gaming group. The second type of meeple is 2-colored. When you stand it on its feet, you can see that it wants to play a specific game, but it could be convinced to play a different category of game. Remember, when you look at it standing up, the preferences always go from the top to the bottom. The final type of gamer is the beloved omnigamer. It's technically a single color, but since the gold color does not match any of the game categories, they're willing to play any type of game. Just remember that the gold gamers still look for the game with the highest rating. Spielnacht is played over the course of 5 rounds. Before the first round, we need to create a foundation of our gaming group. That means we're going to draw 8 meeples and line them up on the table so that everyone can see them. Usually you would stand them up on their feet, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to lay them down so you can see them a little bit better. All of the players should take a minute to look at the meeples and notice any trends. For example, this group looks like it has a lot of blue players, or cooperative players, so when you pick games this round, you'll want to add at least 1 cooperative game to your collection if you can. Now that we have a foundation of our group, we can start round 1. At the beginning of the round, we're going to draw 8 games that can be collected by the players. The games will be drawn from the same deck, in this case the Phase 1 deck, and you can use your player aid card to remind yourself which deck to draw from. Once you've drawn the 8 cards, the players will take turns in clockwise order, taking any card that they want to. Once the last player draws a card, they will draw a second card, and the order reverses until the first player to go is the last player to take the card. Now that all the games for this round have been claimed, it's time to invite some friends to our gaming group. Pass around the red bag of meeples, and secretly draw 5 from the bag without looking. From those 5, you need to invite 2 of them to your gaming group. It's best to always invite the people that want to play the games that you bring, so don't forget to keep your collection in mind. The 2 meeples that you picked go into the green bag, and the other 3 go back into the red bag. Now we've put all the meeples in the bag, including the 8 foundation meeples that we started the game with. Each of the players has selected the 2 games that they want to bring to games night in the first round, so now we're going to resolve all of the meeples in the bag. We'll reach in the bag and pull out meeples one by one and try and assign them to games as they come out. As you can see, this meeple has a top color of purple, so it really wants to join a purple party game. We figure out which game it goes to, since there are 3, by looking at the rating in the top right corner of the card. In this case, there are ratings of 3, 30, and 19. So naturally, this player wants to go to the highest rated game that it can, and it's going to join the 30 game. The next meeple to come out of the bag is this green meeple. This meeple only wants to play green games, or war games. So it's going to go to the only available game that it can, and join Oligopoly. Next, we come to a gold meeple. This is the Omnigamer, so this meeple wants to play the absolute highest rated game that it can. We look at all of the different ratings, regardless of color, and we see that the green game has the highest rating of all of them at 31. So the gold meeple will also join this green meeple and play Oligopoly. We would continue at this point assigning meeples in the same way, but we'll speed through the rest of this process for having illustrated this for the video. Now that we've assigned meeples to all of the games, or in other words, we've pulled all of the meeples out of the green bag, we can look and see which games are going to score points. Only games that have reached the minimum player count are going to score points. So in this case, there are only 2 games here that will get points. This green game has a minimum player count of 2, and it has achieved 2 meeples, so it will score 2 points. This blue game also has a minimum player count of 2, but it managed to acquire 3 different meeples, so it will score 3 points. The other games, including the ones that had meeples attached to them, did not meet their minimum player count, so they will score 0 points. At this point, all of the cards go back to the players. The meeples go back into the green bag. And we're ready to start round 2 with a fresh set of 8 cards. After 5 rounds, the players will total their scores, and the player with the highest score wins. Now you should have a pretty good idea of how to play Spielnacht. Hopefully you enjoyed the game. If you have any questions, or you're interested in playtesting, my Twitter handle is @AceElliott, or you can email me at ace@spielnacht.com. If you'd like to check out the rules of Spielnacht, point your browser at www.spielnacht.com. Thanks for tuning in.